Good morning. My name is Divya and I'm from Azim Premji University, and I'm going to be talking about how to find reliable information as part of process of science, and this is for I Think Biology NPTEL course. So we are going to look at how do we access information. Say, let's suppose we have been, as students, you have been assigned a particular topic where you have to find some information and write an assignment on that, right? These days there is so much information out there. It's flooded with information, and the challenge is to find reliable information. So you need to understand how to access that reliable information, how to filter excessive information and only get what is needed for us to complete an assignment. So there are many ways to do this. In the traditional old school, say 10 years back, there were students used to go to library where there are books, there are journal articles, there are magazines where you can browse through them and get that reliable information. Of course, students still do this, but what has become routinely common these days is to access information on your mobile or on your laptop with the help of internet. Google search engines have become so powerful that you can access information within seconds. So I'm going to walk you through one specific example and say, how to filter that information to get more reliable information that you need. So let's take an example of chocolate because we all like chocolate, and let's say we want to find out about how how chocolate is made, how chocolate is produced. So I'm going to go here to Google and look at chocolate. And when I say chocolate, just give a keyword as chocolate. It gives a lot of information about chocolate pricing, what are the different brands of chocolate, whether it's white chocolate or not, whether it's Ferrero Rocher, where is it available in India, near, close to your house, etc. and etc. Right? These are all mostly sponsored advertisement which comes on the first page of when you say chocolate on Google search engine. Of course, there is Wikipedia article where if you click on that, then it does give you some information about how chocolate is made, where is it come from, right? It talks about history, it talks about adaptation of chocolate, European adaptation, solid chocolate, where all has it traveled, where does the word come from, the etymology, types of chocolate, etc., and production. So Wikipedia is a good first source of information where you want to know about a topic which you don't know anything about. But of course, you should not stop at Wikipedia, but you should refine your search and look at some other articles. So please, when you're looking for a new article or when you're looking for new information, don't stop at the first website you get, but look at several other web pages. So if we scroll down or if we narrow, okay, let's narrow our search to chocolate pollinators. We want to find out who pollinates chocolate and how is chocolate pollinated. And you will find that insects, in fact, pollinate chocolates. And in fact, there is a certain kind of fly, a tiny fly, which pollinates chocolate. So there are again several web pages here which talks about chocolate. Um, and you can see that this is the flower of the chocolate plant, cacao flowers, and how pollination works. It also shows you that there are flies which actually pollinate chocolate, but you can also hand pollinate chocolate. So what happens in the absence of flies, and what actually which kind of fly which pollinate chocolate. So this itself is lot more specific than going through Wikipedia or other common, by using very generic keywords to search. So what I'm showing you right now is how to use very, very specific keywords to streamline your search. Okay, so you find certain blogs like this, or specialist web pages such as Scientific American, like this, how pollination affects chocolate production, or Science Friday, it says meet the flies that pollinate cacao trees, right? So these are specific websites which gives you reliable information about chocolate production. But of course, as a novice, you won't know what are reliable, what websites are reliable, and what is not. That's why you need to read at least few 4 or 5 websites to in order to find out, okay, what is actually reliable, what is a paid website, what is not, and what is actually scientifically correct. If you are a science student and if you want to dig deeper and get scientific articles, then there are several ways to do it. I'm going to show you one way. It is known as, there is a page known as Google Scholar. It gives you scholarly articles. That means it will give you articles which are published reports. So I'm going to search as chocolate pollination, and it will give you all the published articles on chocolate pollination. Right? There are several important features of this Google Scholar window, and I'm going to take you step by step about what to look for in this Google Scholar page. So all these are papers, published papers in various journals, and basically it gives various kinds of information. So you can say that here on the left side, you can see that these are published. You can kind of custom, you can have a custom range of, say that, okay, I want to read articles published only in the last 5 years. So you can go to customs range and say from year, 2015 to 2022. And that will result in only those articles which were published in this period. Let's say if we say any time, then it will give you all old and as well as new articles published in this particular period, right? Okay. Then let's look at some other features of this Google Scholar page. So there are several of these things. So cite means how do you cite this page? I will come to this a little later. Cited by is how many people, how many other scientists have referred to this particular paper. So say for example, 53 people have cited this natural pollination of cocoa. 303 people have cited the chocolate tree, a natural history of cocoa, right? So depending on how many people have cited, that kind of gives you an idea that, okay, whether this paper is, whether you can read that paper or not. Of course, it's not a only index that, okay, how popular this paper is, but this is one idea of how, how popular, how widely cited that paper is. And you can also read other articles. It says a tab called related articles here, and it gives you anything. Google picks up this keyword of chocolate pollinators, and anything about chocolate pollinators gets picked up, and you can read few more articles. But let's stick to this page. So here there is one article called as natural pollination of cocoa, and it shows that there is a PDF available and a full view available. For certain articles, there is nothing, no information. So if you click here, it will take you to that page, and you can see that an abstract of that paper, okay, as well as the whole paper here, though it doesn't say a PDF is available, it looks like the whole paper is freely available to you. But this is not always the case. Sometimes papers are not freely available, and you'll have to ask your library, or there are other means to get get access to a full paper. Okay, so this is about how to kind of get some kind of reliable information. I'm saying that this is more reliable because this has gone through a study, a scientific study, and it is also reviewed by other peer scientists sitting all over the world. They would have reviewed these articles, and many would have confirmed that what they have written is actually true. So, this is one way to find reliable information. So, it really depends on what are the specific keywords which you use. So, let's say, for example, I'm going to change this to chocolate pollination by flies. So, there you get very specific articles about um, this flies pollinators on two wings. So more so since we have used flies in the keyword, Google again picks up that information, and you can see that it's mostly about flies, and anything to do with flies may or may not be do with cocoa, but it will pick up that information, cocoa and flies. Cocoa flower diptera, their identity, pollinating activity, and breeding sites is one such paper. There is one more website called PubMed Central, which is like Google Scholar, but it's much older than Google Scholar, which we all routinely use to get, scholarly articles. So this is how the page looks, and you can, again, exactly like Google Scholar, you can type in whatever you want to see. So I'm going to say diabetes, um, and hit search, and it gives me again various articles um, related to diabetes. It takes up that keyword, and it's much more extensive than Google Scholar. Right? So there are these many items related to diabetes. But what is interesting here is you have various other resources in its database, such as books. There are other websites which are linked to it. There are gene banks information, and then there is nucleotide information. There is various other structure, taxonomy pertaining various other kinds of information pertaining to diabetes can also be found. So this is a much more scholarly page if you want to kind of narrow down your search. And like Google Scholar, you can cite it. So there is a cite button here, which will give you citation in various styles. And you can also access the article either by clicking here, and you can read the entire article here, or by clicking the PDF option of this article. So this is known as PubMed Central, and it's largely for life sciences, subjects related to life sciences. Okay, so with this, I want to kind of briefly highlight about the process of publishing itself, how science works and the process of publishing. In the previous, 2 or 3 classes, you would have learned about the scientific process, how to think about the scientific process itself, and how to ask questions, how to frame hypothesis, stuff like that. But when you are done with your results, and when you have a full like a story of a study, the next step is publishing. Of course, you can decide to publish it in various ways. What is the point of publishing? Because you want other audience, either in your related field or lay public, um, to know what you have done and what is the contribution of your project to the community of that particular particular topic, right? So say suppose I'm a researcher working on diabetes. I might have found out something new, however incremental it is. There might be some new knowledge, which will help the body of the scientific body to grow step by step, little by little. So I'm going to be specifically talking about publishing. So when you compile the data and when you are ready to publish, you have to write it up in a formal way. If you were to send it to a scientific journal, so often there are various kinds of scientific journal. Uh, these are all, it's a company. There are various journals. Some are the society journals are free of cost even to publish, but there are other journals where even to publish your own work one has to pay for figures, or even if you have colored figures you'll have to pay, so on and so forth. But there is one more site known as bioarchive, where you can put up your preprint um, um, document. What I mean by preprint is before it goes to printing, the formatted document, which is actually, if it's already published in a journal, um, that's a different issue altogether. But before actually sending it to any scientific journal, we can upload the article, whatever we have written, for completely free of cost, and it can be, it's a repository or it's a storehouse for all the preprints. Now there are some advantages of it. The thing is, this is, again, it's completely free of cost, and anybody can upload their research work here. And it will be read by a community of interested people who do related work, and they can comment on it, and it's quite supportive, and you can actually benefit from those comments and modify your work, or modify even the writing, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. Right. So this is known as bioarchive, and instead of sending it to a formal journal, or even before sending it to a formal journal, people usually they put up their articles in bioarchive and get comments from it. So I just wanted to introduce you all to this bioarchive. And see, there are various subject areas which bioarchive caters to, all the way from animal behavior and cognition to neuroscience, microbiology, genomics, lot of stuff. So this was especially helpful at the time of pandemic, where a lot of people were working on various vaccines for COVID-19, and they could benefit from it because they needed quick output and quick results, right? So people were uploading articles into bioarchive. Okay, that's about various search engines, and also um, how does one go about putting things on preprint before actual publications. I want to say few more things apart from using Google Scholar. I want to say a few more things about what not to do when you have an assignment where you are using online search bars like this. Let's look at little bit about plagiarism, because that's become a common thing, where we have to alert students about what is plagiarism, what is the difference between copying something and writing in your own words, reading some information and writing in your own words and citing that information. Right? So, since there is a lot of information on the internet, it's very easy to copy sentences from multiple sources and put it as your own. And for instructors or for the audience who is reading that information, they won't know where that information the student has got from. So it's always a right practice to cite something wherever you have got that information from. If you have copied a sentence exactly from an internet, then you have to put it in quotes and cite that resources. But if you have read a paragraph or two from a particular website or a paper, and it's actually recommended that you paraphrase that information. That means you use your own words to write that same information, and then you cite that particular resource where you have obtained that information from. So these are the practices which has to be followed. But often what we find students do is, in a hurry of completing an assignment, they will, of course, they'll write that information in their own words, but not cite that particular resource right next to that information. But at the end, they'll put out a list of references, but you won't know what paper they have cited or what paper they have used for what particular information. So what is important to do is you write about one particular information, and as soon as that sentence is over, you actually open a bracket and put in that particular author's and year name, and so that that reference is there along with that information, and this is known as in-text referencing. Right? Of course, there are other ways of referencing, but this is one popular way of referencing that information or citing that information. So you can either quote some words or some sentences if you don't want to change what the author has written, or paraphrase it and write it in your own words. It's always in school, when students are studying, questions are given and certain answers are written, but in the college level, it's almost mandatory that you have to cite that information. Where did you get that information? And what papers are you referring to? So plagiarism has become an important topic to understand what is plagiarized information and what is not. So one has to be careful about that. Of course, now things like ChatGPT have come up, and that is going to revolutionize how we look at information and how we use that information. So it's not correct to use ChatGPT, things like ChatGPT or other AI resources. Just you can ask that question to ChatGPT and say, how does chocolate pollination works, and it will give you a very nice essay about pollinators of chocolate, and you can use that information, right? But it is not correct to use these kinds of resources without acknowledging where you have taken it from. Also, you yourself won't be gaining much knowledge if you use these external resources without actually understanding what's going on. Okay, now let's come back to a little bit more information about how to actually cite this, your whatever you're referring to. Right, so there is a button here called Cite. So if you click here, it gives you different formats. So MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, and Vancouver are different formats in which you can cite this paper. So these are the authors who have written the paper. This is an year in which the paper is published. This is the name of the paper or the title of the paper, and you can see that it's a review article. So the difference between a review article and a actual, like an empirical study, is that a review is a compilation of many studies, whereas an empirical study is something which you have, it can be a theoretical or an experimental study where it's a standalone study. It's not a review article. So you will get some idea about what kind of an article it is. Sometimes the heading itself says that, or sometimes when you see a paper, when you see a research article, you'll get the idea whether it's a review or a actual study. This here, Agriculture, Ecosystems and Environment, is the journal in which a paper is published, and it will have volume and page numbers typically. So these are all various styles in which you can cite a paper. Anything is fine. So you can just click on this, right click, and copy that particular information, and you can put it as what are the references. So if you are writing an assignment, and towards the end of your assignment, you have to list the references you have used. So you can copy paste this reference and put it up. There are other ways, other easier ways. One can also cite an information. If say, for example, it's a big thesis you're writing, and there are several articles that you have to cite. If you can't every time you can't like go click here and paste it. There is other softwares which are known as Zotero, which are freely available, where you can actually download those software into your Word doc or even Google Doc, and just click on this paper, and it will take that information, all that author, year, and all the information which you need to cite it, and it automatically incorporates those information into the reference section. So there are many ways to cite a paper. So this gives an idea about how reliably search for information, starting from just knowing about where to find chocolates. Now we have kind of streamlined our information or access to information by giving specific keywords such as chocolate pollination or chocolate pollinators. And by going into specific websites such as Google Scholar, you can actually download research articles about this information. With that, I would like to stop on how to find reliable information. And in the next few chapters, my colleagues for this course are going to talk about other process of science. Thank you.